Hello and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs show here on Catamount Radio. I'm Brian Collamore, your host, and each week, as you're well aware by now, we talk with community leaders from the business, professional, nonprofit, and political arenas. Our program is brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And we are looking forward to the 178th fair coming up August 12th through the 16th here in Rutland at the Vermont State Fairgrounds. And our thanks to the folks there from the Agricultural Society for sponsoring the show. And we will continue to remind you to purchase your tickets. You can go on ParamountVT.org and pick up tickets for the agricultural acts, the entertainment, I should say, the country and western acts coming in. And we hope for great weather for the fair this year. Today, we are honored to welcome in a couple of folks who are both members of Rutland Post, the VFW Post here in Rutland, 648. And it seems a little bit almost very appropriate to be talking to them on this 4th of July weekend. Yesterday, of course, was the 4th of July. And we welcome you in. Hopefully you got out to do some fun things at the beach. This is one of those, I don't want to say rare holidays, but it's certainly a holiday where it's a positive one, a happy, when you say happy 4th of July, some people say happy Veterans Day or happy Memorial Day, and those don't, to me, make a lot of sense if you follow my thought on that. But certainly the 4th of July is a celebration of this country's freedom, and the two folks we're going to talk to today are responsible in large measure for some of those freedoms. And we'd like to welcome in Tony Merchant and also Paul Whelton. And I don't know who wants to start out, but I thought what we'd do at the beginning of this was to have you both intro yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves, your background in the military, and then we could talk about the Post for certainly the main part of the program, some of the things that happen there, and it's just a wonderful thing. We'll talk a little bit, because there are other service clubs in the area. The American Legion has a Post 31 here in town. I know they, I believe, are still sponsoring a baseball team of youth. There is no canteen down there anymore, but they also have bingo every Thursday night. And then we could talk a little bit about the Moose. I'm a member of all three, so I'm a lifetime member of the Post here in Rutland, the VFW Post, Sons of in the Legion, and that's a yearly kind of thing. And then I did join the Moose Club about a year ago. I don't know much about the Elks or the Eagles. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but certainly I have two guests that can talk about that. So who wants to start off telling us about yourselves? Tony Merchant, welcome in, and it's great to have you with us.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. So tell us about your service and what you do at the Post.
Well, I joined the service in 1972 and went to OTS in Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. Trained as a navigator, electronic warfare officer,
yep,
and weapons systems officer for F4s. That's like a navigator. And I served as WISO in Thailand and in Hill Air Force Base in Utah. Then I got grounded, stayed around for a while as a wing electronic warfare officer for F4s and F-16s at Hill, and then cross-trained into the intel career field and served in Virginia, Nevada, Germany, South Carolina until retirement.
Are you a lifelong Vermonter and born and bred here in Vermont, or?
Sure am.
Okay.
Born in Proctor.
Proctor. So you went to Proctor High School?
No, I went to St. Peter's and MSJ.
Oh, okay.
Grew up about a mile from where we're talking right now.
Okay, yep. And how much of a shock was it for you to go from, what is a tiny state? I mean, we're not the tiniest, but we're darn close to it, to go to Texas to become a member of the Air Force. Was it a shock, kind of culturally?
It was very different. It was quite an adjustment, yeah.
Okay. And you enlisted, right? I mean, you joined.
I joined, yes.
Okay. And any experience overseas at all?
Sure, yeah. Had, of course, a tour in Thailand. We took our airplanes out of Thailand, brought them back to the U.S. at the end of the Vietnam War. and I did 3 years in Germany, and then a couple of deployments to Saudi Arabia during and immediately after the first Gulf War.
Okay. So I'm sure that was all very different for you as well.
Yeah, but by that time, you're pretty much socialized into the service. So
yeah. Okay. And you spent 20 years, I think, in the Air Force?
20 years and 21 days, but who's counting?
Well, we'd like to welcome you in. Thank you for taking time out on this 4th of July weekend to spend a little time with us here on the radio. Paul, I'll look to you to kind of bring us up to date on your career and talk a little bit about some of the things that you do at the Post, too.
Good morning, Senator. I started my career as a high school student. I went to St. John's Military High School, and I started standing inspections, having my shoes shined at the age of 14. And back then, they gave us a gun at the high school, and we actually were responsible for it. We had to clean it, maintain it. It did not have a firing pin in it, but I started my career with St. John's Military High School in Washington, D.C., where I was born.
I was going to ask you where that was. Okay.
So Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of becoming a member of the United States Marshal Service in 1971, and I worked in the Washington, D.C. area for a number of times. I was on the part of the Special Prosecutors team for the Watergate investigation. And so I did my tour in the D.C. area, which was a culture shock, becoming a police officer in the inner city. I had the good fortune of being assigned to one of the first assignments in the Federal Witness Protection Program in the U.S. Marshal Service, where I met my lovely wife, and we just recently celebrated 50 years of marriage.
Well, congratulations.
And so anyway, we were on our honeymoon, and I got a teletype telling me that I was being assigned to Strategic Air Command in Offutt, Nebraska. Ooh. So I took my wife. She went back home to live with her parents, and the tongue started to wag there. And I went out and went to F.E. Warren Air Force Base, where I went through 2 weeks of nuclear security training. Then I was sent to Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana, with a 341st Strategic Missile Wing, the ace in the hole. And for the next 5 years, I moved nuclear weapons across the state of Montana, 650 nuclear weapons to be exact. During that time, I had a chance to talk to a Navy recruiter, and he said, "We need a man like you." And the Master at Arms, which is the MP law enforcement rate, I joined there. Took my basic training down in New Orleans, Louisiana, and completed that. It was a modified course because I had law enforcement career experience. My career, I did a lot of assignments as a reservist, oftentimes back on active duty. Did a lot of work in the Caribbean Drug Task Force, working with SEAL Team 2 and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, Coast Guard, Canadian Coast Guard too. And a shout out to SEAL Team 2, which were our backup, and they were just tremendous. After that, I moved up the ranks, became a chief, and then became a senior chief. I was just amazed that I had made it that far. I had many assignments. One of them, which sticks out, I was Chief Master at Arms on the USS Yosemite out of Mayport, Florida, which was the first women-at-sea platform of the Navy. Everybody had doom and gloom prospects of what would happen, and nothing could be further from the truth. It was a very successful mission and integration of women into seagoing service. Another one that sticks out was Chief Master at Arms in USS Comfort Hospital ship out of Baltimore, Maryland. And we went up into the Baltics when the Russian and Chets were killing each other for whatever reason I still don't know. I self-servingly, I'll say another thing that came out is I was honored, deeply honored, when the Navy called me one night at home and told me that I had been selected to have part of the Naval Reserve Center in White River Junction named in my honor. And I had a very nice ceremony, which you, Senator, attended. I was deeply grateful. And when they told me, I said, these things happen when you're dead. I said, I'm very much alive, and I plan on being alive when this happens. And so it was an honor that I still find hard to believe, but have a reserve center named after you, or named part of your service, was tremendous. So it's been a wonderful career. I ended as a Command Master Chief, E9, and as I told at my retirement ceremony, it wasn't a job, it was an adventure.
And I think you and I have talked a lot about my own sort of relationship with the veteran community. I am not a veteran personally, but I am the son of 2 World War II vets.
One of them was a Marine drill sergeant.
Indeed, she was. My dad had to actually, he was first interested in enlisting in the Army. He was from Detroit, Michigan, but he was rejected because he had a heart murmur. So he literally had to go to France, and he joined the Army, the American Army in France, and then went to North Africa, the war front there in the Second World War, and drove an ambulance right at the front. My mom, who's originally from Massachusetts, was also, interestingly enough, she's the one that was the Marine. So she was in the first class, from what I've been able to tell, in Mount Holyoke, Massachusetts in 1943. She was in the first class of Marines that were ever commissioned in the United States. She stayed stateside during the war, and then worked for the telephone company as an operator. And she used to take us in and show us how they used to plug all those cords in and hook people up to phone service. But I often kid that one thing we never heard in our house, and I have 2 brothers who are a year apart, a year younger than I am. When we misbehaved, we never heard my mom say, "You wait till your father gets home," because long before he showed up, and he worked with the VA for many, many years, Mom took care of the discipline in the family. So it was kind of an interesting thing. And that's how I really became interested in the veteran community. Paul and I think we first met when you were at the bankruptcy court on West Street in Rutland, in the I'm calling it the federal building. I don't know what the correct terminology is, and I don't know whether that still operates there or not. But you were one of the marshals that I used to see when I worked at the radio station. We had headquartered down in downtown Rutland, and I used to go every day to get the mail. And I would always run into you. So that's how you and I became acquainted, right?
Yeah. At that time, I had retired from the Marshal Service and became a court security officer. Okay. Which they contract with several often retired Vermont State Troopers and New York City police officers. I did see you there at the bankruptcy court, but I just got to ask you, did you ever argue with a Marine drill sergeant?
No. Or if you did, it was only once, trust me. No, it was very apparent growing up that we weren't going to win that battle, so it was much smarter and less... we got spanked if we did, so I don't know how else to put it. I know in today's world it's probably... people are gasping, but that was just the standard operating procedure when we were small. And as I said, we never had to worry. In fact, when my dad got home, it was better because we didn't have to just answer to my mom. But I mean, I love her, and both have passed on, and both had full military ceremonies at their funeral in Massachusetts. So, no, I never did argue. That was pointless, and you were never going to win that one. So let's talk a little bit, and we're coming up on our first break, but about the VFW itself. Tell us, for people listening, we're talking to Paul Whelton, retired Master Chief from the Navy, and Tony Merchant, who spent 20 years in the Air Force. And many people who are listening probably are not that aware of the difference between the VFW and the American Legion and all the other service clubs that we have in the area. So let's just start with Post 648 here in Rutland. And what exactly is the VFW, and how do people get involved with it?
Oh, the VFW is a 125-year-old nonprofit.
Okay.
501c19 veteran service organization. Founded in 1899, chartered by Congress in 1930-something. There's about 16.2 million veterans in the U.S. and about 6.1% of the population over 18. In the VFW itself, there's about 975,000 regular members worldwide and over 6,000 posts. And regular members have to be U.S. citizens. They have to have served in a zone of active conflict in the uniformed services of the U.S., as shown on their DoD form DD-214. And they have to have an honorable discharge from the service or a general discharge under honorable conditions. You have to have served in a zone of active conflict, and that's shown on your DD-214. In Rutland, there are a lot of people who deployed fairly recently to either Afghanistan, Bosnia, or Iraq. And if they have the Global War on Terrorism medal, they're qualified to be in the VFW.
Okay.
The difference between us and the American Legion is that in the Legion, you need to be in the service during a time of conflict, but you don't have to have been in the actual zone where the conflict occurs. That's the difference between us and the Legion.
Okay.
And the Vietnam Veterans, by the way, have an organization here, the VVA, Vietnam Veterans of America. They operate out of upstairs at the post, the VFW post. For the VVA, you just have to have been in the service during the time of the Vietnam War. You don't have to have been in actual combat in Vietnam.
Okay.
They do a lot for the community out of the VFW in Rutland. We also have auxiliary members. I think you're an auxiliary member?
Yes.
An auxiliary member, there's probably 500,000 worldwide. Any son or daughter, father, mother, grandchild, widow or widower, grandfather, grandmother of any regular member is qualified to be an auxiliary member. Locally, we have, of course, Post 648, we have 185 regular members and about 300 auxiliary members. And our regular membership is up from last year. We're up from about 175.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know the Vietnam chapter was the first in the country, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, it was founded here in Rutland.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm those of you that may have been listening, at this point, gosh, it's probably 10 or 15 years ago, to the Tim Philbin show on WSYB, used to hear from Jake, who was a local guy, and I think he was the one that kind of organized the chapter, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
Okay.
He was an Air Force pararescue in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Pretty dangerous job.
He would call Philbin's show every now and then, and had some great stories to tell.
He would always end his comment with just a thought.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, he did. That's very good. So what kinds of things does the Post do in terms of community involvement? I know, different groups sponsor different things, and I am assuming there's a way for people to get involved if they want to, correct?
Yes, you can volunteer at the Post. We have weekly, we're open to the public on Friday nights, and monthly we have a breakfast on the first Sunday of the month. Or is it the last Sunday?
I think it's the last
Sunday of the
Sunday.
month.
Yeah.
And at our Friday night open to the public, we do burgers, or we do wings and some other things on the menu. And public is welcome to come. Starts at 5 o'clock and usually closes down about 7. For community service things, we sponsor the parade, the Loyalty Day Parade, every year. And I want to say thanks to those that help us with that, especially Donna Manfredi and Teresa Manfredi and Shella Mills and Bill Gillum. They do a lot of work on the parade committee to make that happen. And a lot of businesses in the community contribute money to that as well. We also do a Memorial Day ceremony. This year it was up at Rutland High. Mm-hmm. One of your compatriots at the Senate gave the keynote speech there. And I want to thank the Rutland High for sponsoring us up there, and especially Brent, the director of the band, and the band, who for years have come to the Memorial Day ceremony. They really make it happen. They make it happen nicely.
Yeah, I was honored to have been at that ceremony this year. In the past, it's been at the Post, I think, wasn't it?
West Street Cemetery.
Oh, that's right, the West Street Cemetery. Yes, I think I'm thinking of the Legion, and perhaps they have also kind of a different ceremony.
They do some things there, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to mention also about the auxiliary members. In particular, I'll embarrass you, Senator, and Senator Weeks and Senator Williams. We have the community breakfast the last Sunday of the month, and people come in there, they'll see the three senators, or some of them will be there serving food and very approachable. It's a family-friendly event. People come in, it's all you can eat, and the price is, I think, $11, and the senators are there, and people do ask political questions, but it's always, as I can tell, it's always been friendly. At least the supervisor on the line tells me it was very friendly.
I think I know that supervisor.
Yes,
I think you do too.
But I encourage people to come for a great breakfast. It's for a very worthy cause. The food is good and it's plentiful, and it's a chance to meet your fellow citizens and occasionally run into a political figure and ask them the questions that you may not have been able to ask them in the future. And it's all done politely. There's not a lot of venom or angst about it. But it's the last Sunday of the month. It starts at 8 a.m., and I think it goes to 10:30, 11 o'clock. But it's a good time for a very good cause.
Yeah, and I've been, attending that as regularly as I can, and it is, as you say, a very civil, friendly atmosphere. And I see people there that I don't see anywhere else. I don't happen to run into some old buddies that I used to ride motorcycles with, but they come every Sunday or every month on that Sunday. And as you say, sometimes they'll ask questions that they would not have a chance to otherwise ask of their representatives up in Montpelier. Sometimes it's a little embarrassing when you don't have the right answer, but if you're doing your job, as I try to, I will always get an answer and then get back to them on it. And I know we've taken the summer off. I'm not sure when the next breakfast is, but...
Last Sunday in September.
Okay. So usually from September through about Memorial Day, is that the cutoff?
Yes, Memorial Day is the end of it.
Okay. And then the volunteers take a much-needed break from doing that.
Great staff in the kitchen, by the way. It's all volunteer. Nobody's being paid. And it's, for, again, a very worthy cause to keep the post open because we are of service to veterans in this community. And I will say on a political note, I was outraged that in time when veterans, we talk about veteran suicide and veteran homelessness, for some reason I cannot understand, they canceled the Veterans Outreach Program, and our representative, who was a big assist to veterans in the Rutland community.
Yeah, Rich Gallo, for sure. Yeah, we can certainly get into the national scene. In some ways, it's almost impossible not to. I'm hoping that the president finds some ways to sort of idle down a little bit in terms of the cuts that have been made and unfortunately continue to be made. And that was one of them that you could see directly affected the Rutland area. So I'm hoping that there won't be any more cuts, certainly in that direction. And it's something I look forward to once a month to go down and have breakfast. So hopefully we'll all be around on September when we start off again and invite the general public in to enjoy a breakfast as well. We have to take our first break here on Catamount Community Connection. And again, we are talking today to two members of the veteran community, Paul Whelton, who spent 20-plus years in the United States Navy and also was a U.S. Marshal, and Tony Merchant, who was a 20-year veteran of the Air Force. And we're talking about the VFW and some of the things that are involved down there. We will take a break, and we're coming back in just a moment. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection. I'm Brian Collamore, your host, and today we're talking to Paul Whelton and Tony Merchant from the VFW and also veterans themselves. Our show again brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And yes, folks, the 178th Fair is on the horizon next month, August 12th through the 16th at the Vermont State Fairgrounds. And you can go on and get tickets for the entertainment that will be coming at ParamountVT.org. So we've talked a little bit about some of the things that the VFW does, the post here in Rutland for the community. I know Tony wanted to talk, too, about the PACT, which is, well, I'll have him explain exactly what that's all about, but that was an act passed by the Congress and expands some benefits for vets, right?
Yes. I'd like to give a shout-out to our congressional delegation for supporting that act, and this is a national-level thing. The PACT Act is the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxics Act, and expands VA benefits to veterans exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, radiation, other toxic substances, such as the contaminated water at Marine Base Camp Lejeune. If you were exposed to any of those things, you may be eligible for some benefits through the VA, and you should get yourself registered. Our service officer at the post, Richard Gallo, was very good at helping people access their benefits from the VA, and that's one of the areas that he's very good at. You should take advantage of that. Even if you don't have any problems now, you should be registered in case sometime in the future things pop up that you're not prepared for.
Yeah, I know we took a lot of testimony in the Senate Government Operations Committee about the burn pits and the unfortunate reactions to that, to the human body, and maybe the military wasn't even aware at some point of how serious those medical effects could be, but they literally just would burn everything up when they were leaving, and if you got near the smoke, you pretty much got infected. And yeah, so I'm happy to hear that Rich is doing that work. It's important work, and certainly our three congressional reps did good work on that. So thanks to, in order, Senator Sanders, Senator Welch, and Representative Ballant for their work on that. In fact, I think Becca Ballant was still in the Senate when we took some of that, in the Vermont Senate, when we took some of the testimony on the burn pits, for sure. Let's talk about some of the challenges, too, that the Veterans of Foreign Wars post here in Rutland still face. You have a building that is right on the downtown area on Whale Street. It's a fairly large building, and I'm thinking that in the wintertime, it probably gets a little expensive to heat it and keep it in good working order. And I know we have an anonymous donor that stepped up and helped out quite a bit. How's the building doing? Is it 2 floors or 3? I know it's at least 2.
Well, we have a basement.
Okay.
And there's 2 floors above that. The basement is heated. And in order to make the payments on the fuel, we rent out the basement for motorcycle storage in the wintertime. And we do a lot of other things. We have raffles. We some money from the breakfasts and the Friday night events all goes toward supporting the upkeep of the building. It's an old building, 1957. And another thing, we'd like to say thanks. The kitchen floor was in pretty bad shape, and Home Depot volunteered to provide a new floor and put it in, and also some paneling on the walls. And there's a fellow up there named, I think, DJ Williams. He was the honcho for that. We want to thank them for doing that. It is challenging to meet the financial obligations of keeping the building open.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to 1957, what we put up as a state-of-the-art building back then wouldn't even come close to what we do now in terms of windows. Most of that, I'm sure, was single-pane windows and a lot of heat loss, and in the summer, the cooler air loss affected that, and maybe the insulation as well. So, yeah, it's got to be expensive to keep that post going for sure.
It is, and we would like to thank that anonymous donor. They gave us money that we were able to convert some of the spaces upstairs into 2 apartments. We rented one of them out to a local person who works at the post, and the other one right now is serving as an Airbnb, and that's bringing us some revenue that we really need. We're hoping maybe to get a permanent or more permanent people in that other apartment. We couldn't have done that without help from the local businessman.
Yeah.
Really, really fortunate that Rutland community has people that are willing to step forward and give. I've always said this community is amazing in its generosity. This is not Silicon Valley. This is a blue-collar area, and people work hard for the money, and when they donate and help us, it makes a difference between turning the lights off or keeping them on.
Well, you couldn't have said it better. We had a breakfast with the governor last week, and he mentioned how attractive he finds Rutland because he compares it to his own hometown of Barrie, and they're both very similar in terms of that blue-collar, hard-working people. Barrie, of course, with the granite industry, and of course Vermont with the marble later and whatnot. And he seems to really have a special spot in his heart for Rutland. So you said that well, Paul, and for sure. We are so grateful for so many people that anonymously, behind the scenes, give back to the community in so many different ways. And that was just one way that somebody helped out the post. So you mentioned the Airbnb, Tony. Is it kind of a week-to-week thing, or do you normally get somebody in for a month and then you have to continually kind of replace those people?
Yes, right now it's whenever people need a place, they might go to Airbnb and look for a good place to stay. During ski season, we had good occupancy.
Oh, okay.
And we had antique fair down at the Rutland Fairgrounds recently.
Yep.
Somebody from over in Wilmington, New York, came over here and stayed for a couple of days. We had somebody last week. They had a wedding in the area. A young family with 2 small children rented it. And that happens as people want to find a place to stay. We get good reviews. We've got 5-star reviews every time, and we're hoping that continues. And it's really a big help.
Yeah. And of course it's downtown, so you can walk anywhere you need to walk to get services. The bus is there to take you up to the mountain if you're a skier, that kind of thing. So it's very convenient. And would people just be able to Google the Rutland Post there, 648 to find out how do they do it, or how would somebody get a hold of you to want to rent that?
Well, I think they should go on the Airbnb website.
Okay.
And then look for someplace in the Rutland area, and we'll be there.
Okay.
And one of the things, they get off-street parking, and we offer guest privileges in our canteen for those who come and stay. But it's a reasonable place. We take very good care of it. It's cleaned, and as Tony said, we've gotten consistent 5-star reviews.
Let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the other things that we've been able to do for the vets. And this is going to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. I don't want to throw my shoulder out.
You should. 11 years of hard work.
You really should.
You really should.
Well, trust me, it was a team effort, and I was a very small part of that. The governor had put in his budget for years money to take care of the income tax exemption that we tried to get for the veterans in the state. And for so many years, and it was 11 for me, the bill just stayed on the wall. So in the Senate, it would be in the Finance Committee, and the House of Representatives, it's in Ways and Means. Those are the 2 taxing committees of the General Assembly. And this year, in a really strange, complicated way to do things, there was a bill introduced in the Senate, which was Senate Bill 51, that was originally put into play to help people who were taking care of older folks that were not getting paid. So unpaid volunteer care workers, and they would be able to access income tax exemption. When it went over to the House, because it started out in the Senate, but when it went over there, the committee, the Ways and Means Committee, stripped that piece out and put in exemptions for 4 different groups. The child tax credit, so it went from what is current law, 5 years of age and under. You could take $1,000 tax deduction every year, assuming that they're living with you. And we moved the age up to 6 years of age and under, and so it's $1,000 for every kid that you have that's 6 years of age or under. There was another tax that was the earned income tax credit. If you stayed below a certain level, you again could claim that as a deduction on your income taxes. Then there was a Social Security piece, and this would involve veterans, by the way, as long as they are on Social Security, but it involves everybody that's on Social Security. If you're a single filer and you put that in each year, it's current law. Well, actually, it's retroactive, so now I can say current law is different, but it went from $50,000 a year. Anything under that, you could tax exempt to $55,000. So we added $5,000. And then if you're married filing jointly, what was $65,000 a year now is $70,000 a year. Again, a $5,000 increment. Anything under that, and you can claim exemption. And then the fourth group was to get the veterans included in that. The bill I sponsored for all those years was a total exemption, regardless of how much you made. Didn't matter if you were $25,000 a year or $500,000 a year. You got to take off the income tax on that. That was not taken up in terms of being able to get passed. But what happened in the end was they agreed on $125,000 a year. So if you're a veteran and that is coming out of your retirement pension, you can exclude that first $125,000 from Vermont income tax. Then there's a sliding scale from $125 up to $175, and it gets a little bit less attractive as you get, if you're making more money, you have to pay more of that tax back. And then over $175, there's no exemption. So it's a partial step. It's a step certainly in the right direction, but it wasn't enough for me. I'm going to continue to push for full exemption for any military pensioner. I don't know how successful I'll be next year, but I'll put another one in and we'll see what happens. But it's a good thing, and it was a step in the right direction. The act in our case on the Senate side passed by a vote of 28-0. So the 28 out of the 30 senators voted in favor of it. And the reason there were 2 that didn't vote, that was a day where the governor had left the state. So the lieutenant governor was the governor and didn't preside at the podium. And the Senate pro tem, Senator Bruce from Chittenden County, stepped in and was the presiding officer, and they can't vote unless there's a tie. And then there was one other senator from up in Franklin County that was in Canada on vacation, and he wasn't there. So that's why it was 28-0. In the House, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the vote was, it was 141 or 142 or something like that to 2. So there are only 2 members of the House of Representatives that voted no on that bill. And I have no idea why. They have their own reasons, I guess. So anyway, it passed almost unanimously in both chambers. And it was a great move in the right direction. The governor signed that bill into law a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to attend that bill signing ceremony up in the ceremonial office. So that's one thing that we did, and we're going to continue, I hope, to do some other things to help the vets out. But hopefully they'll be able to take advantage of it. I mentioned it's retroactive, so it goes all the way back to January 1st of this year. So when you file your income taxes at the end of 2025, you will be able to take full advantage of that.
I have a question, Senator. What efforts will be made by the state, if any, to get this word out to tax preparers, accountants, commercial, they would go there, so these tax preparers would know that this bill is in effect?
That's a great question. I don't know if anybody has thought of that yet. I will contact the state treasurer, Mike Pichak, myself, when he gets back to work on Monday. I assume he's not working through the 4th of July weekend. And I will try to get him to make that known. most of the tax preparers I know keep up to date pretty much. I mean, that's their job, to know what is now, eligible for exemption and sometimes what isn't anymore, because it does go both ways sometimes. We tax things that we didn't used to, or at least we, push it up by 1% or something. But this would be a great act for a lot of those tax preparers to be able to say to a vet, hey, did you realize you could take $125,000 and keep all that money and not have to pay any of that to the state for income tax? So I'll take care of that. Don't you worry, I will.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know if your listeners know, but the average military retiree is between 40 and 42 years old.
Okay.
And the average pension for an enlisted person is $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
So your work will help them quite a bit.
Yeah. And I was told that the 125 figure covered about 75% of the vet. In other words, there'd be at least 75% of the veterans that would be able to take advantage of that. So some of them are making 100, maybe 110. All of that would be great. And, to me, I don't know if I can put a percentage on it. 80% of that it's just the right thing to do. It just doesn't make any sense why we continue, in a sense, to punish and penalize people that have served the country the way veterans have. And then the other 20% is an economic tool where we will lose fewer people moving out of state because they're fed up finally. And I'd like to put billboards up in all the roads coming into Vermont. Hey, guess what? Now you can move to Vermont and take advantage of this. So I think it's going to fill that. It's about a $3 million hole that we created by doing this. I think that's going to quickly be filled up with an economic benefit.
One of the factors also that should be brought into the equation is these veterans are coming with a lot of skills.
Yep.
They're in their 40s, and I know this state is desperately looking for volunteer firefighters. And I can speak for myself. Every Navy veteran went through fire training, albeit on ships, but we learned how to fight fires. And these people are in their 40s. Wouldn't it be a real asset to some of these volunteer fire departments that have 5 and 6 members? They get people in the prime of their life who are trained firefighters. Just one of the side effects of getting veterans to stay in this community.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that the governor talks about all the time is our demographic challenge. And so if a vet who's 42, let's say, moves in, hopefully married with kids, all of a sudden, all of that revenue goes to the bottom line in terms of shouldering this tax burden that everybody has to take care of. And so the more people that move in, the more effect it has on the overall tax rate. And it's such a good idea. And as you say, Paul, we can find people jobs, skilled jobs that we don't have filled right now. It really is, I think, a step in the right direction for sure. So we're talking today to Paul Whelton and Tony Merchant, who are members of the Post 648 Veterans of Foreign Wars here in Vermont. Also, they're veterans in their own right. And we've talked a lot about some of the things that the Post does for people. Monthly breakfasts open to the public the fourth Sunday of every month, beginning again in September. The Friday night feed, if you will, whether that's wings or burgers or something in between. I've had spaghetti down there, I think, on occasion, too. So you never know what you're going to have on a Friday night at the Post, but it's always a great, and it's just a great place to go out and meet people. And, the majority are veterans, but if you haven't had a chance yet to talk to a vet and thank him or her for their service and find out what they're going through in terms of their life, it's probably a great thing for you to be able to do that. I don't think enough people think about that. Certainly younger people don't seem to be clued in on that, unfortunately. But maybe we can scare a few more people into going under the Post on Friday nights. Anyway, we have one more break to take, and then I'll reconnoiter with my two colleagues here and find out what we'll fill our final 10 minutes or so with. And we will take a break here on Catamount Community Connection, and we're coming right back. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs program here at Catamount Radio. I'm your host, Brian Collamore. Each and every week, we talk with community leaders from the business, professional, nonprofit, and political arenas. Our show brought to you by the Rutland County Agriculture Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And yes, folks, the 178th Fair is coming next month, August 12th through the 16th. And today we have been pleased and honored to be speaking with Tony Merchant, 20-year veteran from the Air Force, and Paul Whelton, 20-year veteran of 20-plus years from the United States Navy, and also a former U.S. Marshal. And there's a couple of things left that we haven't talked yet about the officers of the post. So I'll have Tony or Paul run over quickly who was in charge down there and what they do. And then we have a couple other topics we can get to right after that.
Yeah, well, Post 648, the commander right now is John Pisanelli, and he has done a lot to get us where we are, to keep us in business. We were very close to going out of business after COVID. Mm. And without John and some others there, we would be gone. I'm the quartermaster. Our junior vice is Matt Prouty. You may know him from the police department.
Yep.
And if you had spaghetti there, it was because of Matt Prouty and his wife.
Sherry, yeah.
The service officer is Richard Gallo. He does a lot, making sure veterans get what the benefits that they've earned. That's the main drivers of our post, the leadership. We have trustees, 3 trustees.
I'm one.
Paul Whelton is a trustee. Who are the other 2?
The other 2 are...
I should have been a lawyer. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
The other 2 trustees are Bert Clarino.
Oh, yeah.
From Proctor, and Norb Rafter.
Okay.
Norb is Tracy's father, our canteen manager.
Yeah.
Who does a great job, by the way.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Tracy wears a lot of hats and works a lot of hours and steps forward to make the events go smoothly there. And the breakfasts, I think, go very well between her and the supervisor on the line of the breakfast. It works out well. And we have a new kitchen, by the way, and that's going to make the food service so much better this fall.
Yeah. And again, thanks to Home Depot and the gentleman that Tony mentioned earlier down there. That was all volunteer. It was all offered at no charge. And so, yeah, that's... and John Pisanelli was telling me about the floor that was really in tough shape before it got replaced. So that's great to hear. Talk to us about the CBOC, if you would, Tony. Tell us what that is.
CBOC is the Community-Based Outreach Clinic. It's a remote VA location. If you're a veteran and qualified for the VA services, they do your medical stuff there. You can go there and have a general practice type. What do they call the doctor you go to?
Internist.
No, the doctor who does all your recommendations. Like
general practice specialist.
The guy that's your family doctor.
General practitioner.
Anyhow, you can go there and they will do your general practice stuff there.
Okay.
If you need other services, they can recommend it. They can get you appointments, even in the local area if you're unable to travel. By the way, if you can't get over to the VA, we might be able to help you out with transportation from Post 648.
And that's right at the railroad tracks on West Street, right across from the cemetery.
Yep, right where Mincer's used to be.
That's right. Yeah.
And the Social Security folks, I think, are in there too.
I believe you are correct. Yeah.
Yep. It's a really nice service.
So if you're a vet and you want some of those services, that's where you want to head. And how about the Patriot Pen? What is that all about?
Oh, yeah. The National has a every year competition between high school seniors and middle school kids for scholarships.
Yep.
In the state, if you win first place in the state in the middle school scholarship competition for Patriots Pen, it's $500. And then you go on to the national level where you could win up to $3,500 or more dollars. Somebody from St. Albans did win $3,500 this year. In the Voice of Democracy for high school students, you can win up to $35,000 in scholarships at the national level, and if you win the state level, it's $1,000. So it's something that high school kids might be interested in. If you are a grandparent of a high school kid looking at college or a middle school kid, you might want to push them a little bit to look into this with their guidance counselors. The $35,000 scholarship this year at the national level went to some guy from Manchester, New Hampshire. That's a nice piece of...
Boy, it is. Yeah.
That's a nice little boost to your college aspirations. Talk to us if you're interested.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just trying to think of some of the questions that maybe some of the listeners would have if they could call in, which you can't. How many posts are there in Vermont? And if someone is a vet and has just moved into the area for whatever reason and doesn't know about the Veterans of Foreign Wars post here in Rutland, how would they join? How would they get a hold of you to find out, first of all, the services that you can offer, but also for them to also become involved in the community?
Well, Vermont is a department of the VFW. There's something like 54 departments at the state level. In the state itself, there's about 20 posts, and there are currently roughly 4,059 regular members in the state.
Okay.
I mentioned already, at our post, we have 185 regular members.
Yeah, and you said that was up from like 178. So people have actually moved into the area, or did they just become aware of the VIA? Where do those people come from?
Well, we have some that have come from local posts that unfortunately had to lose their charter because they so many members have passed. But we also have folks that have moved here from elsewhere and transferred in, and we have some new members that are younger folks that came in. If you want to join, come to the post anytime. We're open 10 to 6 on Mondays through Wednesdays and 10 to 8 on Friday and Saturday, and just talk to us. We'll be glad to give you a membership application, talk to you about qualifications, and get you into the operation. We love more members. We want them.
What's the number on Whale Street?
15 Whale Street. 15
Whale Street in downtown Rutland and those of you. And again, we should mention the American Legion post in Rutland does not have a canteen. So maybe some of those folks who at one time were able to go there were looking for a place where they could come, and the VFW would be a great...
We're glad to have anybody from the Legion that wants to stop by.
Yep.
They do a lot of good work there, too. That baseball, gets a lot of youth involved. They do a lot of good stuff at the Legion. The Legion Color Guard never misses a funeral. Sue Williams, she puts a lot of time in there, and they do nice work when when a family member passes, it's a veteran.
Yeah. Well, we have about 3 minutes left, so I don't know if either of you have closing things you want to mention?
Well, I want to embarrass you, Senator. We are very fortunate in this community to have 3 state senators that have supported the veteran community consistently. Senator Weeks, Captain, United States Navy; Terry Williams, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, National Guard; and you, a survivor of having a mother who's a Marine drill sergeant. But your dedication over the last 11 years to help veterans financially and supported veterans to have an opportunity to testify before a joint Senate of the House and in Montpelier was a real honor for me. And I just can't say enough about you personally for what you've done for veterans. You always have time to listen, and we are indeed fortunate to have you as a representative, and we wish you many good years in the state legislature.
Well, I appreciate that, Paul. I really do. I'm hoping, again, that we can continue to find ways to help our vets. The best one would be, again, monetarily probably, to get that $125,000 exemption higher. Maybe we can do it with kind of an accelerator every year where it goes up by $5,000 or $6,000. That's my ultimate goal, because I don't think I'll be able to just go from, I don't want to say 0 to 60, but from 125 to the full exemption. But I might be able to, it's funny when you just do it in small steps. Sometimes it's like the old frog in the boiling water. if you turn it on, he doesn't notice for a while, rather than just throw him in the boiling pot.
I thought for sure this bill would stay on the wall forever.
Well, again, we managed to do it, and it wasn't just me. There were other. I think I had 21 co-sponsors of that bill out of the 30. So I knew if it got to the floor, we were going to pass it. There wasn't any question about that. It was just trying to get that one person to feel comfortable enough to get it out of committee, and it didn't happen, unfortunately. But it's a start. It's a step in the right direction. Tony, any last comments? Invite people in and
come on in.
Yeah.
Come on in on Friday night. See what we do. If you're a veteran, we want you. We need you, and I think you need us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely a two-way street. So Friday night, open to the public for either burgers or wings, depending on the Friday. Sunday breakfast starting at 8, and that will again commence on the final Sunday of September, and then it'll go all the way through the winter. And we also you guys have a Facebook page too, right? We probably ought to mention that.
Yes, we do have a Facebook page, and we put our things that are going on at the post there. It's VFW space post space 648 space Vermont.
Okay. And hopefully the 185 members will become 200 members here in the next 12 months. That'd be great, huh?
We hope so. We hope so.
For sure. Well, thank you both for coming in and spending an hour with us here on Catamount Community Connection. We do appreciate it. I thank you again for your service to our country and continued great work. We owe you quite a lot. We really do, and it's up to each of us to do that. Every day should be a Thank the Vet Day. We set a few days aside, Veterans Day, and then obviously Memorial Day. But I thought the 4th of July weekend was a good moment to sort of step back and just appreciate. We're celebrating our freedom. I'm sure there were a lot of fireworks last night and the night before, and that's one way that we celebrate. It's not the only way, but we should take a minute or two out each day, and I think find a vet and thank them. And it's sad, but they don't last forever. So we have very few World War II vets left, and when they go, all those memories, all those stories that they could tell you will be gone as well. So get out and meet a vet and do your best.
If you enjoy freedom, thank a vet.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thank you to you both, and we will definitely have you back on at some point in the future. And that's our show today. We will see all of you next Sunday here on Catamount Community Connection.